let me see. Oh, yeah. I know what I was going to say. After the arraignment, after everything was over, he sought to maximize any political advantage or benefits from the day. He, first of all, he encouraged his supporters to show up at the federal courthouse, and at least 100 did. And he fired off a few posts on his toy social media platform, calling it all a witch hunt. And I love this one. One of the saddest days in the history of our country, only misspelled our. He spelled it C-O-U-R. How he could possibly have hit a C instead of a Y is beyond me, since they're on different places on the keyboard. But never mind. One of the saddest days in the history of our country. Well, it wasn't a sad day to me. Was it to you? I think it's one of the most glorious days in the history of our country. And this is where Trump and the Christian fascists just don't get it. The Constitution of this country was written to create a nation of laws, not of men. Now, I know it hasn't worked out that way, but over the years we have tried, over the centuries, we have tried repeatedly to rise to that level that the framers had in mind, and maybe someday we'll get there, but not with a bum scum bastard like Trump hanging around. So maybe he will soon, be gone. So after he left the courthouse in his glorious motorcade, what was it, 8 or 10 Chevy monster black SUVs with enough armor on all of them to survive a nuclear attack, right? After he left the courthouse, his motorcade took him to a Cuban restaurant in Miami where and this drives me crazy, but he bowed his head with 2 pastors and a rabbi for a moment of prayer. Okay, now I understand that men of the cloth, women of the cloth, people who claim to speak for a certain religious point of view, as part of their dedication to the religion, they will pray with the condemned man. They'll walk into an execution chamber. In some states, that's still allowed, and pray with the person as he is being sent into oblivion. Now, the religious representative there, of course, wants to convince the person about to go into nothingness that, heaven awaits, and so on and so forth. But on that basis, I guess I can understand why 2 pastors and a rabbi offered a moment of prayer. What the hell is a rabbi doing there? Oh, well, he shook hands with the people who were there for lunch, I guess, and even managed to smile and make some so-called jokes as he posed for photos. Now, when he first walked into the restaurant, yesterday was his birthday, wasn't it? Or no, today's his birthday. When he first walked in, the idiots in the restaurant began serenading him with happy birthday. And, he was grouchy and being, well, I don't know if he was grouchy. I don't know anything about Trump except what I read in the papers and see on the telly. But he said, some birthday. We've got a government that's out of control. No, asshole. You have been out of control. You have. So, and just like he did after his arraignment in New York, he announced that he was going to make a speech from one of his golf clubs. And then he spoke last night from his Bedminster, New Jersey resort where he is spending the summer. And in that speech, I saw parts of it. I mean, this guy, really, like I've said before, and you already know, this guy is really had a serious break with reality. It's like watching someone who is insane trying to put together coherent sentences or thoughts, and it can't be done. It cannot be done. But there he was. He was grimacing and repeating his claims of the investigation being politically motivated and calling the prosecutors thugs and claiming he was so busy he hadn't had time to go through all the boxes of documents and memorabilia that he stole. I didn't have time, And he also said that if he's elected, by God, he will appoint a special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden and his whole fucking family. Now, out of deference to the two priests and the rabbi, he didn't use the F word the way I did, but you know what he was thinking, right? So all the shit that occurred yesterday really sucked all the oxygen out of news reporting. I mean, when you stop and think, all the stuff that needs to be aired out by our news media to let us citizens know what is going on about serious issues is subsumed by this Trump soap opera, the spectacle, this criminal activity of this son of a bitch. One Republican competitor, I mentioned this, Vivek Ramaswamy, tried to capitalize on the whole goddamn thing by showing up outside the courthouse to, tell reporters that he was encouraging Trump when he gets reelected to, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. Ramaswamy, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at somebody's name. Ramaswamy said that if he's elected, he's going to pardon Trump. Dude, if you're elected, the earth will stop spinning. So just, chill, go someplace and have a drink, okay? And the former Arkansas governor, Asa Hutchinson, who is also a candidate for the Republican nomination for president, who has frequently criticized Trump. He told a CNN interviewer that it was sad that candidates were not talking about issues, but we're talking about Trump. Well, Asa, come on, you're a big boy, right? You really are. Look what happened to your state. Look who's, well, no, that's right. You're in, look what's happened in Arkansas. This crazy Christian fascist bitch who is now your governor. I mean, woo, Asa. Oh, well. And one of the things I liked yesterday, of course, we didn't see it because we weren't allowed to see or hear anything that went on in that courtroom. But it's been reported that the special counsel, Jack Smith, who's been running the case, appeared in the courthouse yesterday, and he sat right behind his federal prosecutors. And the fact that Jack Smith showed up is being reported as notable. And it is, and it underscores the extent to which he has become the public face of this team of investigators and decision makers. And it was him, or it was he, Jack Smith, not Attorney General Merrick Garland. He was the one who announced the indictment on Friday. The indictment did not come from Merrick Garland. It came from a grand jury who had heard testimony in Miami, who had heard testimony presented by the prosecution, and then the prosecutor announced the indictment. That would be Jack Smith. It's also striking, given that the last special counsel who investigated this son of a bitch, remember Robert Mueller? Talk about a footnote to history. He didn't make any court appearances in the cases brought by his team, and he never personally announced any of the indictments. And as a result, it's like Robert Mueller was a haint, a ghost, just something that flitted through our consciousness, granted for 2 years. But I can remember watching MSNBC at night, and especially the Last Word program. Who is that? You know who I mean. But he would get on there every night and talk about, well, Donald Trump is really in for a surprise tomorrow. And then it would turn out to be just a poof of air, nothing. There was no follow through. Nothing ever happened. So, two public appearances now by Smith in under a week. First of all, his announcement of the indictment, and then his appearance at the courthouse in Miami yesterday, really makes the point that he's going to be a central protagonist in this historic saga of this criminal Nazi bastard, fascist bastard, who has no respect for anything, like I mentioned last week, anything outside the boundary of his own skin. He doesn't give a fuck. Nothing matters except Trump. This guy just turned 77, huh? And I understand the physical condition he is in is rather unhealthy. Yes, well, we'll see. What else did I want to mention about this sorry bastard? I guess that's enough. Jesus Christ. I mean, come on, Mike. Don't torture your podcast audience with this kind of garbage. All right. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.